call this workshop session to order. So we have Italian Festival request to use the Barker Common. That's for August the 12th, from 12 to 9.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we have the budget approval. We have the budget. Should we discuss it? Anyone want to discuss anything about the budget? No? Okay. Then approval of abstract number 488.
Just our normal
Yeah.
bills and payroll.
The real property tax levy for 2017-2018, which is the same as last year's, and not changing anything really.
Yeah.
It's just we have to pass it again. Then we have the appointment of James Hobbs as Russell Joy Park attendant. The appointment of Nancy Deegan as acting village justice. And the hiring of Horton Law PLLC, labor-related issues.
And what that is the attorney that we had for our labor-related issues broke off on his own. He was part of a bigger firm and decided that he was going to break off on his own. So he's the one that's handling all of our open litigation.
Okay. Okay, so hire somebody else. And then you have the fire department report for March 2017. You have the justice report for March 2017. You have the police department report for March 2017. And then the addition to active roles of J.C. Lambert. Everybody okay? All right, let's talk about food trucks. The reason I put this on the agenda is actually next week's Not Fresh Fest parties, college off-campus parties and all that. I understand that Thursday night the food trucks are going to be inside the SUNY Fredonia. And we thought a good idea to be if we can bring them actually here for Friday and Saturday. So kids who are going out and have a good time, let's say, they have something to eat. Because if you remember, Phyllis, last year, you encountered some kids who were intoxicated. So it's a good idea if we have some food out there, either for them or anybody else, just for these 2 days. And the village code doesn't allow food trucks at this moment, but we thought it possible, and our building inspector thought it a good idea if we can pass a resolution for this year to just allow them on Church Street for a fee, just for this year, until we are able to go through the planning and put some regulations there.
Yeah, there were food trucks downtown for one of the festivals last summer, weren't there?
Red,
I
white,
can
and
remember,
blue.
it was a red, white, and blues, okay.
I mean, it's probably a good idea because at least we're going to know who's coming. They will have to pay some kind of permit, and what do you think?
Has it been decided what the permit fees are?
No, this is open. Yeah. I mean, whatever you think.
Did you also give any kind of consideration for any other food establishments in our village to participate in this as well?
They can participate. Everybody can
Okay.
participate, obviously. And this is nothing permanent. This is just for this year, just to cover 2 things. First, so we can have some food for the kids here, so they can do something else than trouble or drink, whatever. We provide them like another way let's say. I don't want to stop the local establishment, quite the opposite, actually. They pay taxes here, so they suppose they should have priority, and they do. We just thought it was a good idea, just for that day, for these 2 days, actually, Friday and Saturday.
Any idea how many?
There are about 5 on campus that night, Thursday night. I don't know if you want to invite all of them. I'm just discussing it. Open it for discussion.
And where do you see them parked? Where do you see them?
Just on
being-
Church Street. Like maybe 2 and 2, no place else.
I think it's awesome. I haven't been to a festival or an event in the Buffalo area in the last 3 years that didn't have food trucks. And you've got all kinds of, brings in a variety of different people to your community. Just makes it very lively, makes it inviting. I think it's a great idea. I don't know do we know what a standard fee is? What they
I
charge in
don't.
other communities?
I don't. Chuck, is Chuck here? No. I suggested something like $100.
That's what I was thinking, maybe $100.
But I have no idea.
Last year, we had a situation where the owner of OMI brought in like a Chevettas, and it wasn't Chevettas, so hold me to that name. And they cooked chicken along the building and then served it on folding tables in Jim's dry cleaner lot. And I called Chuck when that was happening, and I suspected that establishment was intending to do that again. They were never told it wasn't okay. So, I think we need to talk about that as well. Like, what do we do? Do we send Chuck over there to tell them don't do that this year? Is there even a rule that says you can't do it? I don't know about food and food vendors and all that. I don't know how any of that works. But I just want to make you aware that because I know that the restaurant near there said that if he's going to be doing that, he's just closing. He's like, I'm not even going to stay open then. I'll just close
no.
for the day and not deal with, trying to put up, a $5 half chicken. I'm just sharing. So I don't know if we want to talk to Chuck about that this week as well and say, look, anybody's going to serve food's got to do it on Church Street and they have to be registered.
Yes.
That sounds good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's what we should do, actually.
Mayor, how about how late would the food trucks be out?
Huh? What do you think? Like late?
9.
9 o'clock? 8, 9 o'clock probably?
That's it?
I would think.
They're not even downtown by that time.
No,
They haven't even hit the bars by then.
Yeah, but on Fred Fest weekend, yes, they have. They've been drinking all day.
Excuse me, what
They're drunk by 9. I mean, I'm not sure I want them out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I recommend they be out there too late in the evening because I think it could become problematic. I think it's a fine line between offering a timeout from drinking and offering an opportunity for them to bring their alcohol downtown and sit and drink in front of the food trucks. Like I kind of.
Okay, so what would you recommend?
Well, I thought 9 o'clock was good.
9 o'clock is good?
I think once it's dark, I don't know if I want to.
I agree. After dark, I wouldn't want them to be there.
And I think it needs to be as to where they can be, because if you said they just decided, pulled up by gyms and then set up their tables there, look at the liability that happened to that establishment, the owner of that establishment. I mean, it just seems there's no accountability. Where's the liability? Where are they gonna be?
It's my understanding that that was a deal that was worked out. I never got involved in that
Okay.
because I didn't want to become the food police. So I never got involved in it. I just made the powers to be aware of it. But it was my understanding that the owner of OMI had struck a deal with the owner of Jim's for that arrangement. I can't tell you that that's accurate or not, but that's what I was told.
I have mixed feelings about it. I've gotten feedback from some of the local establishments. They're upset about they don't pay taxes, but if there's a permit fee, that's kind of paying a tax. And obviously taking away some of the business. George, you're not downtown here, you're a business owner, and you sell food.
Every weekend?
No, just
No, no.
next
So I
week,
guess I
yes.
would like your input, considering you do sell food, and like I said, I know you're not down here, but
I'm not down here, but I think if I was down here, I might have a problem with it. And of course, you're talking $100 permit, that's really, not a tax. I mean, when you consider state tax, property tax, just, the cost of opening the door during the day. If it only costs somebody $100, I think it's a pretty good deal. I don't know if it's really fair with other businesses.
And
If I was down here, I'd be against it.
And I'm only saying 100 because, 100 was,
Right.
Chuck told me 100, I have no idea.
I think
just
the local
keep it open.
restaurants down here are having a hard enough time surviving as it is. Now, you bring somebody in from out of town that has really nothing invested except their mobile food truck and setting up shop right next door. In my opinion, if I was somebody downtown, I'd be extremely upset. Now, if we were a community of 100,000 people where, there was plenty to go around, it may be a different story. But to me, I think you might want to check with some of the local restaurants downtown and get their view. I'm gonna guess they're not gonna be happy with it at all. I know what Kara's saying, it's a nice, it livens things up, it's kind of nice, but after all, they're in, they're out, they take their money back to Buffalo wherever they go. They're
No,
not-
I understand and I agree with you. My thought was that these kids just drink and do nothing else. They don't go inside any kind of establishment to eat. They won't use any restaurants. So this is a way for us to help them. And
But if you're closing at 9 o'clock, so you're looking at having them in here between 6 and 9, you're talking dinner hour. You're talking opening competition to somebody for the dinner hour. I understand your intent. To me, that intent would be better at 2 to 4 in the morning. If you want to get somebody out of the bar, you get them sobered up a little bit, and before they go home, I get it.
I think we're not really talking about legal drinking.
But no, I understand.
I'm not sure if someone who, I mean, I understand the concern about the local business people, and we don't want to do anything to take business away from them, but standing and having a sandwich outside at a food truck is different than going in and sitting down at a restaurant and being waited on, and I'm not sure that if someone who's gonna go to a food truck and grab a sandwich or something you can carry and walk around would go to a restaurant and sit down, just because it's a different kind of
yeah, but if they can go to a
action,
pizza
you know what I
joint
mean?
and get a
If you were a
slice or a
restaurant,
sub,
Carol, if you own that restaurant, for example, look at the Johns, if you owned the Johns, and every month you were paying your state taxes and your bills and your compensation insurance and everything that goes along with the business, your view's gonna be 180 degrees different than that. You're gonna say, that's a sandwich I could have sold, and now I can't because I have a competitor that has really nothing invested that's right next to me. I mean, this is a debate that's been going on.
What if we let them, I mean, could they set up food places to have food too in the park? Local businesses if they wanted to?
well, it's not so much as people going in and sitting down, it's some place like Lena's, Mary's, some of the others, they can go in and grab pizza, they can get a sub, they can walk out with it just like they can with a food truck. I've got mixed feelings on it, and as I said, I got feedback from some of the local businesses, and they're not happy.
Do you know
I
if,
think this is just on, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think the way I was envisioning it is just for specific days, like this is, as you have the Italian festival
Right.
or have the farm festival. We always have some food trucks at that time, so I thought of it as something like that,
Would be more than acceptable to me, in my opinion,
yeah.
during the festival.
I mean, that's my thinking, that's how I thought about it.
As far as a weekend thing, absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely not, and I have nothing invested downtown. I would think that would be just counterproductive to the local businesses.
Right.
I don't think we're thinking every weekend. I mean, it's not like,
No, it's not, no.
You're
Phyllis?
just being specific to this weekend, correct?
Yes,
And I kinda like George's input about 2 to 4, because there's gonna be a mob, and that might help some of the locals keep up. But again, it's
2 to 4 in the morning?
mixed feelings on it.
I would like to
I
see-
would not want it
I would
from
like
2
to
to
see
4 in the
them actually
morning.
earlier in the day, let them consume, at lunchtime and when they.
Maybe in the afternoon.
Middle of the afternoon and into the evening.
They're gonna be consuming brown bottle sandwiches.
They are, but that's, the idea is to fill them up
They're
with
gonna,
other stuff.
right, they're gonna do that no matter what.
And
the
it
idea
is.
is you're getting drunk much less easier if you eat. Plus you have less time to drink, and your stomach is full, so it's,
And I think the idea is to
that's
try this
the
for,
idea.
the idea to try this for one weekend, to see if it helps curb an issue that we've had before, and also bring positive attention to the community. Hopefully bringing new people, bringing people to our area because they see positive things happening. I think that's my view on it. I mean, I do agree with George. I certainly understand where you're coming from, but as far as that weekend, yeah, I don't know.
I'm uninformed, I didn't realize this topic was coming up, it's just
I know.
off the top of my head. I just think that local business people, there was plenty of businesses.
No, if it's something more permanent, they will be invited to give us their opinion and their input 100%, because this is nothing permanent. This is, we just thought about it, Thursday they're going to be inside the SUNY. So, well, Friday, they're gonna be out here. Saturday, they're gonna be out here. Well, let's give them something else to do, apart of drinking, let's say. So that's how I thought about it, that's how we thought about it.
There's already a food cart on a private property on Water Street, and then also once in a while on private property in front of Coghlan's, there's a hot dog stand sometimes, and those have been established on like I said, private properties. But they're still food trucks, or food vehicles or something like, they're not permanent brick and mortars, and those have been for quite some time. This is just a few more of them. In my view,
But I want to say, I know, because I've been to the parking lot several times and a couple times over with the policeman where that one food truck is, and it can be an absolute mess over there. Because of wherever they drop is where it stays. And then my other concern was, if these food trucks are coming from Erie County, have they gotten the necessary documentation to be able to be in Erie County, Chappaqua County?
They should have, otherwise, they
Or then are we policing? And I guess my whole thing was, with this whole thing with the Non-Fredonia Fest, if the food trucks can be there on Thursday, why can't they be there on Friday and Saturday on campus and try and get more of the activities to go back to the campus than?
Because the university is totally against taking the activities inside the campus. The Fred Fest is originally, it's done with. They don't want to think about it, they don't want to hear about it.
But what are they having on Thursday that they had the food trucks come in for?
They have some activities on Thursday.
I'm like Mark too, I
So it's
see
kind of
the-
getting shifted down to us.
Yeah. There you go.
We know that, because
Well,
they
we
did
know
away
that.
with it. I mean, it's,
We know that.
Phyllis has a good point. If they stay over there on campus, maybe they'll keep more of it over there. Whether or not they want it, we don't, there's a lot of people downtown that don't want that.
well, they've already established they're only having it on a Thursday
I'm talking
food.
about the Fred Fest thing.
But they're not going to have the food trucks on Friday and Saturday. That's why.
The little bit of input that I do have that I know something about is a mess. There's a big mess to go with a food truck. People just throw things out
Right.
on the ground. So if you do that, expect, like Mark, nobody's gonna pick it up. The next day it could be blown into the next parking lot. You have to take that into consideration.
We are asking our street department to put multiple trash bins out, more than normal, so if as many as they have actually, so hopefully that might help.
An idea off of Christina's is maybe we could just set up some tents in the park and get the local businesses who want to participate to bring out their own food.
That would be more
To
than
that
welcome,
location.
That's a great idea,
baskets
actually.
to
If we
clean
can
up.
have our local business, restaurant owners having something down the park, that's the greatest idea, that's great.
Years ago, we used to have that Taste of Fredonia,
Yep.
and it'd be kind of similar to that, so that at least the food is there and it's served by our own citizens, versus outsiders.
Right.
Dave, is that something that you could get the chamber?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can pull that off
I
in
don't know.
4 days.
This
I
is coming
certainly
later.
agree with George. Have we talked-
Next
have we
weekend,
talked to any of the
or this
restaurants?
coming weekend.
Just how they feel about this?
I'm sorry?
Food trucks or
Not me, no.
Yeah?
They don't.
Yeah, of course, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
George said, they're taking away business.
No matter what, whether it's just people walking in, there's businesses they're not gonna get.
Dave, I didn't hear your question. What was your question?
I asked about if anyone talked to the local restaurateurs about having the food trucks, and definitely they're at an advantage. They're gonna get the money, they're gonna leave.
Well, this is a much bigger discussion than this one. I was only, thinking about this weekend. The discussion overall has to, of course, involve everybody who has an interest in that. And there is research. There are other villages, other towns, other cities who have done that. We can go and check. We can see how they did. It's just, my thought from last year was, if we don't allow them, somehow they're going to come. And if they go around or inside the town, instead of inside the village, we're going to lose everybody from here. Everybody's going to drive out there, and it's going to have food from food trucks. So we have to think both ways. That's the, we like to direct people to downtown, to start, walking downtown, traffic downtown,
Yeah, but again, we're talking about this weekend.
yeah,
I mean,
that's the only thing I was talking about, yeah.
I don't think anybody's gonna drive out of the village to go to the food trucks if they're out in the town. Is that what you said?
This weekend, they're not coming out of
Yeah,
town.
okay.
It's no. But, I mean, it's up to you.
Well, I'm willing to give it a try.
Anybody else have any input?
I'm willing to give it a try myself.
Because I know you spoke a little bit.
But, the thought is that these parties accumulate in people's backyards. One of the backyards was an old house of ours that I could imagine having my babies trying to take a nap, and they're loud parties and they have bands, and so they're gonna do it. And so just my thought is, can we just change, put up porta potties, put up more garbage cans, accept the reality that this is happening, and just, I think what she's saying is maybe get it out into the middle instead of in people's personal backyards, because I know there was a lady sitting right next to me when we were talking about before, she was just devastated.
Right.
Because, just you can't do anything about it. So that's why I think it's positive. And I'd rather it doesn't happen, but I think it will.
Okay.
So that's the only reason.
Yeah, could we consider maybe instead of competing with local restaurants at the dinner hour, go from like 2 to 5? Because there's certainly people that are hungry between 2 and 5, and that would not necessarily.
That's a good
I
idea.
think that's a great idea.
Anybody,
Yeah.
any local business person would feel, at least that the dinner hour is being jeopardized.
Actually, that's a good idea, and George said the same thing. That's a good idea. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Of course, there's always the problem. I'm not even sure that we're going to be able to contact those food trucks and then to come down here to get the permit they need and all that. We're pretty close.
But it's a conversation that I think we need to be having for future events.
Right.
We have two different conversations. We're talking Fredonia Fest and this food truck thing here, the woman in the back.
We're just talking about allowing them for this weekend.
Okay, but were you speaking in regards to a Fredonia Fest situation?
Me?
Yes.
I wish we could get rid of it, but we can't.
Well, that's what you're
Yes.
speaking of? Well, let me ask you
Yeah.
this, I mean, Brad, in the years past, have I seen state police here in town?
Every year.
Every year?
And that, I already sent my email request and I've heard back from the state police, the sheriff's department, and the Dunkirk Police Department. They're making personnel available to us. So they will be here, they're here every year, and they assist us in moving the people around.
Is that a cost that the village incurs?
No, that's just shared services. We help them, they help us.
So, like, I would like, instead of putting 5 extra porta potties on, I'd like to have 5 more police cars out there patrolling.
I think the reality of the situation is that there's a lot to be said with regard to that. One is people need to urinate. That's not gonna go away.
Especially when they drink.
The second is that when you're, for purposes of this conversation, everyone needs to be aware that if you're on private property consuming an alcoholic beverage and you're not 21 years old, law enforcement actually does not have the right to go onto your private property and arrest you. We certainly take some liberties in trying to negate the situation, We also don't have any regulations about whether you have 50 or 150 or 200 people on your lawn. I can't tell you that you have to move people off of your property and move them away. There's no rule against that. We've done a lot in the past to start. We've done the social host law. We've done the roof, occupancy law, which has helped us a great deal in gaining some control. But the reality of the situation is, this is not going to be squashed via law enforcement unless you want to see some really bad things occur. People will get hurt, property will get hurt. This is a weekend where we push as hard as we can and we make 60 some arrests a year. This year, the judge is actually going to come in. He's called and talked to me. In the past, we've handed out appearance tickets. This year, we're going to detain and transport them back to the police department. They're going to get arraigned, and they're going to have to post bail. That's going to have a huge impact on my manpower staffing issue, because now they're pulling off the road. I'm pulling my personnel off the road, bringing them back here. The judge is going to be here to arraign them. It should send a clear message in years to come that you really don't want to come here and break the law, because when you get arrested, there's a real good, and the county jail knows. They're actually holding room for us, so that if we're transporting people up there that can't make bail. But this is I wouldn't look for law enforcement. Buffalo tried this one year with their thing where they came in with basically SWAT personnel, and during the event, and it really it didn't come off as well as it probably could have.
We don't want any SWAT things here.
Oh no, I mean, just sharing that we'll do our best, and we continue to do our best, but I really don't want to see people get hurt.
Sure.
It's unfortunate that the college then just shifted this, if you want to call it a problem or a situation, into the village, instead of trying to address it.
I'm not necessarily in opposition to the college's position on this. No one was going there. The kids are coming here. It's social media. This is a social media thing. The kids are coming here because it's gotten a life of its own via social media. No one was even attending the college events. They really don't want this event happening in the community at all. It's not good recruiting for them. Parents don't spend the kind of money that it takes to send a kid to college if it's a party school. They don't want this either. That's why they did away with it on the campus, because they don't want it. So they did push it on they didn't push it onto us. Social media did it, Life did it. But I'll tell you that the thought process was that now that it's eliminated on the campus, and by the way, bringing the food trucks up here on Thursday, I wish they would have done this a week ago Thursday and not this Thursday, but that's nonetheless, because some of these kids are rolling into town on Thursday, and it's supposed to be 75 and sunny on Thursday. Their thought process was that 5 to 6 years down the road, it would start to die out, because you wouldn't have this feeding frenzy from every year. So that's why they eliminated it.
And this year's seniors are the last ones to remember what Fredonia Fest was like. So.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
So where are we at this point then? First, what we have to do and find out from Chuck about the zoning, allowing and we're gonna make them pay a permit to come this first time.
That's right, that's
Right,
what
so
he
it's not gonna
suggested,
be-
because he's not,
Okay.
we don't have the time to really go and discuss it
Okay.
and put the regulations and all that. So he suggested for this year, he said, what
Just the
about if you
permit.
pass resolution only for Church Street, and you can limit the number if you want to, and you can put a permit that is going to be paid downstairs, not up here.
Maybe we should limit it to like maybe 3, just maybe, I don't know, that would,
Campus is having 5.
right?
I just
I
felt-
have two things I just want. One is, tomorrow is Tuesday.
Yeah.
You can invite 8, and most of those people probably have prior engagement.
Right.
Right.
They're booked up for the weekend, so you might end up with 3. You know what I mean? So, I think don't be worried about getting too many, because at this late juncture, we'll be lucky if we can get 3. And the other is, when they do pay, they should have to show you, Chautauqua County does have a food truck permit that they have to obtain from Chautauqua
And
County.
that's probably is gonna be another problem, because most of them won't have it. So, and there was gonna be, it's not gonna be any time for them.
Well,
to
they
do
should
it.
if they're doing it at the college.
The ones on
Yeah, they
campus-
have to have
the
it.
ones on campus, yeah.
See?
Yeah, there's-
I'm not guaranteeing, what we said no.
No.
See,
Well, we
no.
should check, I agree.
Okay.
And then they should have a designated area where they can park too. I mean, as you said, we're gonna have it right on Church Street,
That's right.
then that's where they
Should be
stay.
good,
Yes.
yeah, it should
It's
be-
not
it
gonna
should
be
said
over on
church.
water or
No.
anything.
No, it has to be in one location
One
that's
location,
One
contained, I think.
location, yes.
Doesn't that exacerbate the problem, though? I mean, it kind of adds to the fire.
I'm not sure. It's
Not if it's during the day, I don't think.
different things we have to try, to be honest, because last year, kids were, people who were clearly intoxicated, they were walking downtown and drinking. So it's a very simple idea, like give them something to drink, to eat as well. They won't go to the restaurant, I can tell you that. Maybe if they smell the food right there, and it's very close, maybe they're gonna grab a sandwich. And it's gonna give them some time off drinking and some clarity, because, you know, when you put something else in your stomach, you slow down the absorption of the alcohol, gives you some time of, you know, some clarity, not much. but some. I mean, I thought it was well worth to discuss it, and it's up
Anything
to
to,
you
I
what
think, to
is,
soothe the atmosphere that's around the house party. So it kind of breaks up that house party into a little different atmosphere, and it's right in front of the village hall, very close to the police department. If they're here, they're gonna less apt to act in an inappropriate manner. So, and hopefully, if there's porta potties, they'll be right over here too. Some will be anyhow, so that'll be.
some, yeah.
Yes.
So do you want to set a limit on how many? Is that, I mean, that's what you're talking about, first come, first served basis on the permit, and establish the price on the permit. I'm guessing if we're gonna go with that, because you can't just say only 3 trucks can come, because then
Right.
if there's 8 that show up, who's gonna get
Well, this,
preference? So,
I know,
you know, if you're gonna do maybe
when we
first
have
come,
other
first served
festivals, there's
basis.
quite a few vendors that go on this distance. Yeah, like Brad said, the possibility in this late point in the game for this year anyhow.
I mean, if I,
of-
not
Of filling that whole distance, all of Church Street with vendors will probably be slim to none. I don't know if necessarily having to limit it this year anyhow. Putting the fee on, I think would be certainly fine, $100 is fine. I mean, with me anyhow.
Well, where do they advertise? I mean, if you advertise and say there were 5, if we said 5 trucks and permits are required, the first 5 who show up are the ones who get it.
That's why I said first come,
Yeah,
first served.
I mean, if you're gonna do that, and, because to be honest, I don't wanna see 8 to 10 trucks parked out there. I have real reservations about it anyways. I really think it doesn't promote real good feelings to the people who have established restaurants and things downtown, but I understand where people are coming for just this one time until we can decide if that's really something. And I think we definitely need to, next year, if we're gonna do it, you've got to invite the local establishments
Oh,
to be part
absolutely,
of it.
yes.
I mean, and let them be part of the planning aspect
And
of it.
this is very
also.
late in the game,
know.
that's why it becomes like that, and it's just a thought, anyways. All right, let's move on. Last but not least, the Barking Common Grant. One more week, right? One more discussion. Now, everybody has, all the trustees have the most recent and actually the final budget of of where and how the money is going to be spent. And actually here Nate Aldridge and Mr. McCord can give us some explanations if need be. If you start from the beginning, this is how this is going to work. In order for us to decide exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, we need a master plan, let's say. And this master plan has to be, I mean, we cannot do that. Somebody has to design it. Somebody has to come with a drawing. Somebody has to come with proposals. So this is the first line. The line that says design there, it's in order for us to go to an architectural firm so they can draw some plans. In the same time. And then archaeology, we're not sure if we're going to need that, but probably we will. Probably, yes.
What does that mean?
That means
the park is a historical park, and before any disturbance is done, depending on the level of construction that we anticipate, we would have to show that there weren't any archaeological resources impacted.
Okay.
So usually that requires a study in advance in the disturbance areas.
so. We put $5,000 there. So that's the design thing before we start absolutely nothing. That's for $40,000. And then as we go down the list, as you can see, we have the conversion of the lighting, $10,000. But the gateway monuments, and I'd like to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to leave some here. Anybody wants to see them. So that's the general idea I have in my mind as to what are going to be as we enter the park. So this is something like that. With a light on top.
Now, are these gonna be on all four entranceways
That's right.
of each park?
So we're talking about 16 of these. And we got prices for everything. Going to be about 4 feet tall and 2 by 2, let's say. Now, none of this designs is set in stone. It's just a proposal. I think looks pretty good, and looks good with the rest of the village, of the downtown. Now, landscaping. As we talked with the committee of the citizens about landscaping, we thought the best idea was, instead of actually landscaping the place, just put planters, big planters with probably boxwoods or something like that, that don't die very easily in many different places, or a few different places, depending how many we think we need. And of course, if we get to the point where we're going to trim the trees, so some light comes down or something like that, we can reseed the grass, so we have some grass down there. And that's about $18,000. Then we have the arborist and tree trimming, somebody to come and see how trees are doing, if they're healthy, if they can, if we can keep them and trim them appropriately. That's about $12,000. Now, concrete sidewalks. Here, that price, $173,000, includes the outside sidewalks, that's 8, includes 4 and 4 inside the X walkways, and also the round formation around the fountains, yes. Now, this is what I'm thinking about this walks inside. And this price covers that. It is this, to be stamped at the edges with kind of brick. And then the inside be kind of a grayish. And all of these, I have to tell you, are additional. So 173 covers everything, covers the stamped concrete, covers the color, and also the other thing that covers is if you walk by the fountains now, you see there are some bricks there around that are not very even. So the proposal is we take all these pavers out, we put concrete, and then we re-put them on top so they don't break, so they don't move from that point on. They look pretty much the same, but they don't move. It's much better.
So, excuse me, you're saying that around the fountains, that's also included in that price?
Yes, 173, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Did you say that was outside this?
No, this is inside. Outside is just regular. This is inside as you go towards the fountains. Okay. And then we have, of course, the pedestrian ramps that have to be ADA compliant, and that's about $20,000 in all entrances. Now, the fountains. It's been a discovery for me that the fountains are actually in pretty bad condition. The whole system is not. It's not only they don't recycle the water, the drain is not working. The basin has cracks. The color from the fountains, half of the color is not even there. There are broken pieces here and there. So I think, I think the east one is tilting. So I think this is a priority. This is something we have to do. These are historic fountains. We actually have to maybe even have an engineer look at those, and give us his proposal, his idea as to how to do it. Our street department is, we talked with Perry today, and he thinks they can cover the drainage, they can redo the drainage there, and it's not going to be a big deal. So we put there, where are we? $14,000. Then, electrical and water upgrades. Half of the park has water, half of the park doesn't. Electricity, we don't have power inside the parks, and this is unacceptable. This Christmas, we couldn't even put Christmas trees in the park. So this is an opportunity for us to bring electricity inside, to put water inside. So first of all, when we have a festival, let's say, we don't have these extension cords everywhere. We don't have these hoses to get water from this building, and all that. Perry, again, he didn't think it was a big deal to do the water upgrades. We put about $13,000 there. Electrical, about 10. So this is all the project. Now, we can shift some of this cost. For example, some of the outside sidewalks are not too bad. Actually, they're pretty good. If they are good, we're not going to break them and redo them. Instead, we're going to adjust the prices, or we're going to use this money to do something else inside the park. Overall, we feel pretty comfortable that these prices are very good. We talked to many people. I have written estimates, so we feel that we are in pretty good condition.
So, okay. Can I ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's on the back. So there's nothing in here for like upgrading the gazebo, fixing the gazebo?
No.
Okay, because
No.
that needs to be upgraded. There were broken things and there's moss on the roof.
That was just done.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The-
Years by
Rotary
Rotary.
did that.
Oh, great.
They have that whole thing, roof,
Oh, awesome, okay.
All
I'll have
lighting,
to go check it
it's all
out.
LED lighting in there.
Nice.
Electrical.
There is one side that is broken. I saw it yesterday, and I'm sure it can be fixed.
Okay.
It's just that. But no, there is nothing for that.
And benches.
Benches,
You hungry?
Yes.
not
sorry.
specifically there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not specifically there.
That was me.
We can talk about benches, like the other day, Saturday, we were cleaning up down there, and somebody said, this is the only park I've been to where benches are not around the
Around
fountain.
the fountain.
Looking towards the
I
fountain.
wrote that down, it's around the
And
fountain.
he, yes.
Reposition
and
some of
he
them maybe.
actually, exactly, either we can reposition them or we can do something else with them.
Okay.
And benches are a very good idea, a very good way, I think, to do some fundraising.
Yeah.
Fundraising. So if you turn around, turn the other page, then we have altogether, the whole cost of the project is $368,757. Out of this amount, we have from the state $310,000 and something. So if you subtract that amount from 368, it comes out for the village $58,000. And that's a pretty good amount. This is a very good estimate.
Excuse me, explain it again, please.
368,757. If you subtract the amount that the state is giving us, 310 and 500, I think, we have about $58,000 for the village.
That's the village's responsibility.
That's the village's responsibility. Again, this is not set in stone. If we put in-kind work in there, this amount can go down, further down. The 58 is the set amount at this point.
I would note that the total project cost at 368, again, that's the total cash value of the project. There's additional in-kind and grant administration and overseeing the project, which will be done by the Department of Public Works. That's not factored into here. Factored into this total project cost, but still specifically looking at the cash side. And there's opportunity within these figures to do additional in-kind as well.
Which means that the total value of the project is more than that. It's just some of it is in kind already. Like the administration, it was about $16,000, I remember.
I believe we added at 14.
$14,000. Here is zero. Also, the supervising of the whole project is going to be done by our street department. So that's not $5,000 that it was taken off.
What is the street department gonna do, supervise what?
Well, that they did the work.
You're saying that street department's supervising the whole project? Did you just say that, or?
This is what I mean. When they put the cement, the concrete down, Perry can go and see that they put it right. They didn't do it in the wrong street. They didn't do it in the wrong place.
So they'll just be overseeing the concrete work?
Yes, yes. It's not a big project to oversee any other ways anyways. Like, it's not a building that you need to go and check the stability and all that. This is an open work. We didn't think we should have an extra person there.
Was there any other options with this, the gateway monuments? Because from what the original was into this one, that went up $35,000.
No, it didn't actually went down.
No, on this one it says gateway monuments. Identify and highlight the common entrance, and it was 20,000, and now you have them at 55.
Because what we did at the end was we put together the fence. If you remember, we had 50,000 for the fence and 20,000 for the gateway monuments. That was 70,000 altogether.
I'm just looking at it now that we got last week, and it says 20,000, according to the EPF. Do you remember that?
That was figured in the original grant proposal last summer.
Okay, and that didn't include a fence or anything, that was just the gateway monument?
Correct.
Okay. So That's what I mean, that went from 20 to 35,000. So now it's at 55,000 for those two. I mean, those,
16.
yeah, the 16, but they're two on each end, I'm sorry.
Well, some of the numbers we changed, but we stayed inside the same $310,000 that we had to stay. And that's the point, because now, after you get awarded the money, actually people give you actual quotes. Before, we were just estimating. Now, these are numbers of actual people who are going to come and bid on these projects.
Oh, okay, I have a question also. So if this happens and we hire someone to do the design, they might suggest something different.
Yes.
Yeah, so it might not
Yes.
necessarily be exactly like this or as expensive as this. They might suggest doing something that could be
Yes.
a different design or less expensive.
The point was that with something like that, we are exactly where we need to be money-wise.
Right, I understand that,
Yes,
yeah.
that was the point. Now, they know much better if we can put something like that there.
Mhm.
Maybe they're going to suggest something different.
Mhm.
But the money has to be the same.
Right, okay.
And that's the point.
I have a question, Nate or Don. The 310,000, was that the original amount of grant total monies that were originally in the original grant, or is it based on your total amount currently? The 310,000?
310,000 was awarded under the Environmental Protection Fund through the Parks Department.
So it was original?
There was an additional award through Empire State Development for crosswalk improvements on Temple Street, which will be a later discussion and separate grant from this.
Okay, but that was original?
Yes.
Money, okay.
So, let's discuss it. What do you think?
If these costs go over, has there been anything factored in for that? You know what I mean? Certain percentage, you guys put that in the equation at all?
Right now, it's, these numbers are based upon conceptual sketches and information that we have in regards to the project. That's why it's so important to get the final design done, which will allow the community to hone those numbers down. And then it becomes a construction management issue, where you will, working with the engineering firm and the landscape architect firm, determine much more closely what those are, and there'll be a bid process. So the bid process will take those things into account. At that point, if the bids come in high, you will have the choice either to do something about that locally if you want it bad enough, but most likely what will happen is you will massage the items within that package, you know, in a manner to bring it in on budget. So there, if you, I know they're not in there, but if you have 10 benches, you may have to reduce it to 5, or, you know, in order to make this project work, you'll have to compromise on something. But the goal here is to bring it in on target as described within this framework here, just the total amount. We're not going to go over the 368,000 in cash for them.
Which means, of course, that if we need, let's say, and because the fountains are always in my mind, if we need to spend more money on the fountains, I'm willing to not have planters this year, because the fountains are much more important than having planters around the park. So I'm willing to take money from one and put it in the other, just as long as we see the basic, the actual infrastructure things going on to be completed. What do you think, Mark?
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Prevailing wage, minorities,
Prevailing wage was
women.
factored in all of the
Okay,
informal
so,
quotes we
but
asked
what
for.
if you can't find, to try and bring those costs down, if you can't find a local person to do that, that doesn't meet that criteria as far as,
What they suggested from Noel when we went to the parks, she said we have to to be able to find around here. If we don't find around here, actually we have to find around here prevailing wages, right?
Yeah.
We have to pay
no,
them, yes.
Whoever does the work. will
Everybody
have to
can pay
the
prevailing wages.
Wage,
Yeah,
and
and
the contractors, even the local contractors, most of them, especially in regards to the concrete work, are familiar with the prevailing wage, and so the quotes they gave us took that into account.
All these codes are with prevailing wages and everything else.
I think my question more was it a stipulation too about a certain amount of women or
Yes.
minorities
There
working?
is,
And
that
if the
as
local
a percentage.
contractors can't meet that, then
Then we don't have the opportunity, we don't have the responsibility to do it. We
The-
just have to open it to them.
So you have a project goal of 15% minority-owned business, 15% women-owned business. It's not exclusive to 15 and 15, it could be 25 and 5, but those are the goals of the project. And then during the bid process, it will be determined, for example, if there's an MWBE certified company in Buffalo that bids on the project that's higher than a local firm, it's not necessarily required that goal is met at that point if the bid comes in lower.
And there are, if we get into the position, Mark, where we don't have anyone who responds, there are exceptions that we go through a process. There's a formal process of going through that in the grant administration portion that we would possibly get an exception granted for this particular project. And that goal that Nate referred to is only on the grant funding portion, so it's only on the 300,000 and 310 that comes from the state.
And as I understand it, if it's nobody around here, we're not required to go to Syracuse to find a firm that.
To make a reasonable attempt.
Yes, has to be reasonable and close.
I have a question. In your current budget, you have budgeted under the capital grants thing there for 75,000, which you thought that was or you said that was our portion. But in reality, the entire grant, 368,757, needs to be bonded.
But it's not going to be
Completely.
part of our budget. It's going to be, and Rick can explain that. It's not going to be part of our budget because this money is going to come back to us. We're just going to have
they're gonna be-
a bond of anticipation.
Well, yeah,
note.
it still has to be, the total amount has to be bonded.
Yeah, but there'll be callable bonds.
Okay.
So you bond it, but it'll be a callable bond, so that when you get reimbursed from the state, you just take out the bond.
Bond.
So, you know, you may have the bond for 6 months, you may have it for 4 months, you may have it for 8 months, whatever that takes for construction.
Okay. But
And you get reimbursed by the state.
What they told us is, and Nate and Don was with me, that we can like we can submit all the documents as often as we want to get money back. And it's going to take something between 4 to 5 weeks and 3 months at the latest, at the most, to get the money back.
So you take
Is that what
draws
you-
off on the bonds, you draw on the bonds, the total amount that you're, I mean, like, in the budget this year, it was 75, but in actuality, in next year's budget, you'll have to put in there
Well, the
under
75
different
was for
bonds.
the village portion, because that's gonna be what's left at the end of the day, is only the village portion of the bond.
It's the same thing as the tanker we get for the fire department. The whole amount can be 300,000, but because our part is 150, this is the only part we put there. So the only amount of money that we're actually going to spend is 58. I put 75 just as a contingency, so we have some kind of.
And I do realize that's the final amount, but I mean, you have to upfront, and you will get reimbursed, that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Phyllis?
No, my only other concern is, and I had talked to Nate earlier today, my concern was, we don't have an attorney on board. I hope that we do in the very, very near future. Yes. I said, until such time as I knew there was an attorney on board, and he became a part, because the board, he does help the board with this, information and stuff, but really, the attorney works for what's best for the taxpayer and for the village. And that's what I want to make sure that we're covered, that he's had a chance to look at these things, and I know he has to submit something too, right, in writing?
Correct, there's
Okay.
a state requirements in the pre-contract period, which stipulates that the municipality has to supply a opinion of municipal council. And there's a form letter and state requirements that the attorney will review and submit.
But of course, we aren't going to sign any kind of contract without the attorney looking over it first.
I understand that, but I still think that for us, at least for me as a trustee, I would like to have his input before I cast a ballot to go ahead and do something. Because maybe he might notice something or not feel that that was the right. So there's where I was coming from. And I was just not comfortable making a commitment without having at least somebody to run that past.
Okay?
Is that the last stage of commitment, like putting it in our budget?
Pretty much.
I mean, is there still the opportunity down the line to say we're not going to accept this?
It's in the budget.
Well,
And it doesn't happen, you don't have to use the money. Correct.
That's right.
Because we already have it in the budget.
Right, it's in the budget, if it doesn't happen,
It is
you
the
so-
budget.
But it's in the budget, doesn't mean that it has to be spent.
Right.
Right, so,
There's nothing that requires you to spend that money.
so, I mean, the idea here is to get the contract initiated so that we could get it back. And so then when it's here, by that time, I would think that the new attorney would be here. And then we could authorize the mayor to sign the contract. That's what we're trying to do here. So to move this forward, to get to that point.
It's just, we are pushing deadlines further and further back. And, I mean, it's totally up to you, but I think this is a good project. $58,000 would never give you the amount of work.
With all due respect, I think you're starting to suffer from paralysis from overanalysis here. I don't see an attorney giving his rubber stamp on it as something that should make you feel better. I think that the numbers speak for themselves. Personally, I'm pretty comfortable with it as it sits.
How much time does the village have between accepting the grant money and signing the contract for the grant money? In reference to, do we have time to get an attorney?
What's going to happen? Well, we're hoping to get an attorney very quickly. But what's going to happen is, even after they pass a resolution for me to sign the contract, even after that, the contract is going to come back here so we can check it before I sign it, or something. Correct?
Well, I'm just maybe helping out a little bit. The pre-checklist that we've been talking about, the items that are on there in regards to seeker and other components that have to be submitted to the state, a survey of the park and the bond or the councils and things like that. Those and the authorizing resolution, which just really authorizes the mayor to eventually enter into a contract or choose not to enter into a contract, which that option still exists. But we need all of these pieces in place, which even if you were to do this, pass an authorizing resolution this evening or 2 weeks from now or whenever, it's those pieces that will then trigger the state actually putting the contract in place. That's when it will go to the legal counsel up there and they'll draft the contract. That will take multiple weeks before that actually comes back here for the village to have a contract to hand to your council to review. But until we get the checklist completed, it doesn't even initiate them drafting the contract for your review. So we do have a sample contract, and really the biggest difference is your scope is what was stated in the grant. So your scope will be different than somebody else's, but most of the other standard language in this 55-page document is the same. So we just received that this afternoon. we requested a sample like that because we thought you would want to see something.
I can email it to everybody.
And so we would be glad to provide that to you to look over or have a starting point for council, but you won't get the formal contract until we get through the check.
Yes, this is.
So you really need an attorney to review the contract proposal before you approve it. And attorneys usually review the surveys. They're involved in the process of the surveys being done. Surveys are done by an outsider, but they're involved in making sure that the survey is correct.
And that, actually, that's the opinion of the municipal attorney, that the municipal opinion that they want is that about the survey. But the contract, that's what Mr. McCall was saying, the contract is not going to be here for another 2 months, let's say, even if we pass this resolution tonight.
So what are you passing then?
They have to have a resolution that the board allows me to eventually go into contract, allows the village to go into contract.
But you're not planning on doing that tonight, correct?
I would have liked to.
I mean, we just
But
got,
we
we just
just
got
keep
this,
pushing
these,
things back.
and you wanna do a resolution for that tonight, I'm not gonna do it.
Are you going to do it next week?
I'll look over this and it's very possible, yeah.
Well, if I have to wait 1 week so I can have everybody's vote.
I mean, I was under the impression,
We don't have a meeting.
when I spoke with one of you gentlemen, that this
2 weeks.
isn't dire straits right now, it can be pushed off a little bit.
I would say that we have a self-imposed deadline of May 1st. That deadline is not necessarily set in stone, but it is important to get all this documentation submitted to the state to get to contract period as soon as possible.
So I guess the short answer for that is yes, we have a little flexibility, but we'd like to not stretch it out too far because that interferes with construction seasons and bidding, all the many pieces that have to be put in place.
Do you have a cost estimate as to how much the village street department would be incurring for the project?
Not yet. We were talking, like in numbers, I don't have the number yet. But they will do, my question, actually my request to them was to do as much work as they can without neglecting their duties and without taking the whole, all of the people out of the streets. And they can do that, they said. So they will help us as much as they can. For example, they will do all the drainage for the fountains and all that.
Well, why wouldn't you include that cost as in the project?
It will be included.
Which will be eligible for a grant reimbursement also?
Yes, it will be included. Yes.
Okay, well, I heard something different, I thought.
No,
she
it's
read
out of the
something else.
$58,000. That would be out of that. I just wanted everybody to have a number in their mind, that this is how much it's gonna cost the village. Now, maybe somebody's gonna come from that door right now and say, you know, I'm gonna give you $20,000. That $25,000 is going towards that. Or maybe somebody will say, I'm gonna pay everything for one fountain. That's gonna come out of this $58,000 again.
Okay.
But if we have to pay everything, it's $58,000. That's what it comes down to, and I really think it's a very good, like, a very good chance for us to do
There
it.
is a 10% cash
Requirement.
So the minimum amount of cash spent would be $31,000, but between 31 and the 58 that's budgeted in cash, there's certainly opportunity to maximize as much in kind as possible in that.
Well, okay, it's been my experience in the past, working with grants that, with the village, that we would incorporate all of the cost as part of the project, and which would be eligible for the grant. And then if we used village employees, that would be charged against the project. It could be eligible for grant reimbursement.
We're gonna do exactly that,
And
yes. We are going to
so
do
that's why I was
exactly that.
asking the question about.
We're gonna do exactly that. Just today, I wanted to give an upgraded budget so the trustees know how much it is. If we have zero in kind, you have to pay $58,000. The village of 11,000 people has to pay $58,000 to do all the sidewalks, all the crosswalks inside, the fountains, the trees, the new, put water in the whole 2 parks, put electricity in the parks, and the ramps. This is what it comes down to. It's really very simple. Yes.
I think what Jim is talking about, you have addressed it already earlier. You said that there were some figures from the streets department. For example, I think you had mentioned $18,000 and maybe $10,000 for electrical and some other things that was coming from our streets department towards that 368. Did you not?
Can I?
No, that was the cost, actually.
Yeah, the cost.
The overall project, and they give me the total number, but it's about 414, I think.
Yeah.
That's the total value of the project. The village is obligated for 25%. So you're getting, 75 cents on the dollar from the state, it's 310. The cash portion of that today, as we know it, is 58,000 from the village. The in-kind to make up that other 25% is the part in between 368 and 414. So those hours from the street department or the efforts to replace the drainage and the water lines and so on, primarily the staff and equipment would go towards making up that dollar gap, the cash gap that we have right now.
I'm not sure I
Okay.
follow. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
When you said that,
I just don't want anyone to misunderstand it. Right now, that the remaining, the distance in between 368 and 414, which is the total value of the project, is going to be made up in in-kind. That will come from grant administration, construction oversight, the village employees' time that they might put in, volunteers, whatever, wherever we can find an in-kind. If we can get it larger than that gap, yes, then we could put some of the.
But that's not really in-kind contribution, that's an actual cost to the village. And by including the street department labor as part of the project cost, I mean, the village is gonna be committed to pay 25% of whatever the total project cost is, whatever the grant eligible cost is. So,
So if I understand it, you're asking if the state is going to reimburse the village for the time that the employers are going to, the city department employers are going to work on that. No, the answer is no. The reason is that's instead of us giving money towards the grant, now 25%, so to hire people to do the work, we using the people we already pay to do that work, and that's in kind.
Didn't you say before they were just gonna oversee it, that Perry was gonna oversee it?
Yes.
But they're going to do the actual work.
There's some work, there's
Some
some,
work.
there's
No,
some work that they will
some
be
work.
able to do, that they're gonna do.
According to
and to
Perry, they're
provide the
going to
in-kind
work
service.
about 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 guys there. That's the work they're going to put. But to us, really, we are paying the street department guys anyways. So if they are able to do it during the regular time without overtime, I don't see why not. I mean, this is what we usually do, right?
well, it makes the difference in that if they're doing a capital project, then that's a charge against that project, which is being financed by the village.
We
And
have
it's
to
not-
pay
and it's
25%.
It's not impacting the general fund budget
Mm-hmm.
for those hours of work.
Yes, they're not going to work overtime, so they're going to work during the regular day. So no, it doesn't impact the village, the budget in any way.
No.
I mean, I don't understand how it's going to impact the village. And overall, we are responsible for 75%. Now, some of the 25%. Some of the 25%, we're going to use putting hours in there. For example, I worked 6 hours last week on this grant. This is part of that. Nobody's going to pay me for this. Nate there worked more than 10 hours. Mr. McCord, the same thing, more than 10 hours. So this is in kind. Nobody's going to get paid for this. I mean, that instead of the village paying actually back to the money to the state. That's how we do it.
Rick, I have a question for you. Could you please refresh our memory here? What is this going to cost the average household taxpayer in the village of Fredonia, the one time?
I gave you that last time, don't you?
Because I think this is what's getting lost here.
That's
It's
$75.
It's actually,
75. Now
it's actually lower now. The
58,000, yeah.
the number he gave you before was about $18 per household on about
Yeah.
100,000.
That was-
It's actually lower than that now.
I am sick and tired of what's going on here.
Thank you.
We have an opportunity here. With all due respect, we all talk about how we want to run our village like a business. Well, let me tell you what, in my business, if my business looked like parts of this village, I would be out of business. We have an opportunity here. The state is going to help to begin and start a fresh park. And it builds from there. I don't understand why we're dragging our feet here for another week. Vote on this tonight and let's do this.
And I second George.
Okay, can I make a
I mean,
comment?
enough. This is our home here. We're all here because we care about the village. The nickels and dimes that you guys are fighting over right now, I'm kind of done with it here. Let's get past it, folks. Let's get past it. Let's look into the future. I want to stay here. I want my kids to stay here. I want a vibrant community in 20 years. This nickel and dime stuff's not going to get it done, guys. And at some particular point, there are no more excuses. What is this board going to do for the village of Fredonia? What are we going to do? What have you done so far? Here's an opportunity where the state's picking up 3/4 of the bill. And how much was it, Rick, again?
$18.
I'm sorry, guys. It's pocket change. It's pocket lint. It's a couple of lottery tickets. I don't get it. I do not get it. I want you guys to vote on this tonight and let's get this thing going.
George, I totally agree with you. Up to this point right now, we had no idea where we stood with this. We had no
That's
idea.
not true.
We've had these numbers for ages.
You may have had, but we
The
have.
board has not.
But it's your
That's not
responsibility to have those numbers. What have you been doing? Why
But
do
the
you
bottom
not have
line
them?
is, the bottom line
Okay.
is,
But we knew $18 a month ago. We knew $18 a month ago.
That's not true, Doug.
It's nothing, guys.
That is just, that can't be.
Okay, that was on a speculation of 75,000. Okay, I'm not gonna argue with you. I totally agree with you now, George, but up to this point,
That is
Let's
so
look into the
true.
future
okay,
here.
you have no idea. You don't. You have
Okay.
no idea.
Okay, I
So
have no
please
clue.
don't accuse me of knowing something that I
But,
didn't know.
but still, the
Well, let
numbers,
me ask you this, you didn't know last meeting we had, what did you do between then and now to find those numbers out? We had those numbers, no?
That's right.
We had them. You sat in a meeting and said you did not have them repeatedly, over and over. You were given them, but even if you weren't that night, what has been done between that meeting and this meeting? Those numbers are there.
I was told we would get them, and we did, tonight. And I had a long conversation with the gentleman today, and I said, if I got numbers and the true numbers of what we're looking at, then I would be able to make an honest evaluation of it. And I got them when we walked in today. So what we had before, it's always the same thing, oh, well, we're changing, oh, we're looking, we gotta do this, we have to do that. And if you weren't part of the team, you did not know. So that's it. So now we have them now, and I'm ready.
guys, the village,
I'm-
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna really quickly interject. I agree with George, 100%. But it doesn't really matter what the board did or didn't know, because now we have all the facts.
That's right.
And I think
Thank you.
we all are rooting for the same thing. We just wanna see a better village. I know every one of you guys do. So let's just make a decision. But, I mean, it sounds like it's very, very affordable at 58, call it 60,000. $18 a person for a year. We spend that on other taxes without a blink of an eye. So let's just decide to vote, to move ahead with the project. If something comes up along the way that derails it, well, you guys are always gonna be able to talk about it and say, hey, something came up, this is gonna cost us a lot more, we're gonna have to rethink this. But now, let's just vote to move ahead at least, find out what's the
If a
real
big
number
pro-
that Bill
If a big
had.
problem comes about, we have to readjust, to adjust where we're giving the money and how we're going to do it, as I said, about the fountains. But we're quite confident in these numbers now. You can never be 100% until we start actually working, but we're very confident. We got estimates from 2 to 3 different local companies here for everything, every number that you see there. So we're quite confident about that. So do you want to vote tonight?
Let's vote, let's
I would like to.
I'm happy to vote on it tonight.
Think so?
I'm happy to work on this.
Well, you should read it. This is the proposed by the state. Yes.
Can I ask a question? How much money would you save, because you're gonna be recycling the water? How much money would you save just by doing that over the course of a year or two? Is there any way of estimating how much water we use in those fountains?
Not much.
Not much?
A lot of water, millions
I mean,
of dollars
if
we
those
lost
water
over the
right into the
years.
sewer system.
It's water that we clean, we
It has to
treat,
be
and then
treated.
You
waste.
know how many thousands of gallons of water you use for the mountains?
No,
No, okay, so you don't really know.
I don't, but you know,
$3.60 a thousand, I don't know either, okay?
but what I know is when you have a little leak in the house, and then you see your bill, and the bill is, oh my God, how come it's so much? And you look around the house and you find a small little leak. And this was not a small little lake, this is a big lake there. That's what I know.
Big leaks in your water system.
I mean, I'm not saying we're losing millions of dollars here, no, by no means, but,
How long would it take to meet $58,000, you know? Not to mention, you know, just throwing away water is bad for our environment. It was just.
I think the fountain specifically, to me, it's a responsibility that we have. These are historic fountains, and they are falling apart. They have a crack, they have cracks, different cracks, and this Saturday was an eye-opener for me, because we were cleaning down there, and the drain doesn't drain, and there are broken pieces, and there's no paint on the top, and there's, like, you go close to that, and you realize that you haven't taken care of this very valuable piece of history that we have. And to me, it's responsibility more than anything else. So that's why I keep going back to the fountains. Okay. Good. Oh, yes. One thing that we were talking about before is, even after we get the contract, even after we pass the resolution, if we get the contract and the contract doesn't satisfy, or we have a problem with the contract, we don't have to go through with it. Is that correct? Yes.
Then this is a no-brainer.
Let's, literally, let's
do it.
Let's vote. Let's go here.
You're not committed to anything that is unsatisfactory. And it's null and void. This just allows you to
To
proceed.
move forward.
To get more information. Do it.
The first, next step, exactly, yes.
The community wants it, we want it. We want to see the.
Please, I appreciate all you people coming that are for it, but I just want you also to know, I have had a lot of people that really had voiced a lot of concern and a lot of doubt about
They should be
the
here
project.
tonight, not concerned enough. They should be here.
Maybe they have different reasons why they didn't come. Some feel intimidated, some just didn't want
Fellas,
to
we're
do
talking
that.
$18.
I understand,
I'm
and
sorry.
that may be
The
fine
needs
for
of the
you.
many
All
sometimes.
I'm asking you, George, is that it wasn't an easy decision. I've listened to both parts. I've sat here, I've heard the comments that, some of them weren't very pleasant. It wasn't as if I haven't given it some thought. So I'm just saying, please keep in mind, there are other people that don't think this is a great idea. And they also have voiced, whether they've sent it on a phone, they called me by phone, they've sent it by email, they've stopped me in the store, they've stopped me at school functions. And I think
Was that because of the events?
wait a minute, I listened to them, I gave them the respect to listen to them. as I'm listening to you now. So when my vote comes, I just want you to know, I've taken into consider there's two sides to this story.
But
No,
Phyllis,
can I-
with all due respect, somebody should send us a letter.
They
I
ha-
didn't have one negative after the fence was off. Before the fence, there were some people.
Well,
After the fence was off, I didn't have one negative
I just have a
comment.
simple question here. Where do you see the village of Fredonia in 10 years?
Oh,
mean, in order to run a business, or in order to run any
I
entity,
understand.
you have to project down the road. And if you think that status quo is gonna get it done, take a walk down to the village barns and see what happens when you don't maintain anything since 2012. Now, I'm sure there are people gonna tell you, don't put a nickel in the village barns. Just let it fall in, and then what happens when it does? We have an opportunity here as a village.
I'm well
with the-
aware of that,
Just
George.
let me finish. With the Phoenix coming in, you have 900 jobs. All right? With that 900 jobs, you may have 4,000 people. With those 4,000 people, you're also gonna have extra jobs building around this one small plant. That could be the beginning. Where are these people going to go live? Right? I agree with the mayor, put on your best show here. In order to build this village, you have to invest in it. And if you think saving somebody $18 is the right thing to do, then I'm sorry. What you're seeing in the future and what I'm seeing for the future of Fredonia are 180 degrees apart.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
Then what
that
are
I
you
was
saying?
broad-minded enough that I listened to both sides. I didn't cast my vote yet, so don't be throwing
Well,
stones
also-
at me yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
You
I
know,
mean.
I
those-
just am saying that I've listened to both sides, and contrary to popular belief, there are some people that weren't agreeing with this. So that's all I'm saying.
And I would just like to know, without being confrontational, I do respect that. But they really need to be here. If they have a voice, they need to project it here at a meeting.
Some may not be comfortable doing that, George. And I understand that too.
What were their objections, please, Phyllis? What were you hearing from the constituents who didn't think this was a good idea?
The biggest point that I think was that the amount of money being spent on the sidewalks, they said the whole sidewalks, every sidewalk did not have to be ripped apart. They didn't understand why that was such a big expense at that point. There were, an example, the ramps. Those had been put in by the state, that they really need to be redone there. The monuments, I mean, even seeing what the cost of the monuments there were. And some people didn't like that. They liked the openness of what the park is at this time. For a lot of different reasons, and so,
The
I mean,
monuments
those
are
were
not
some
going
of
to
the
close
things.
the park by any way.
I mean,
These are small columns in the beginning. I'm trying to understand what is the closeness is going to come.
I think that was about the fence originally. The
and
fence
also, and
was
the
in
biggest
play.
part was about the fence. That
But the fence is not
really
there
was a
anymore.
deterrent, and we know that's not there now. Some of the comments were, when you see all the flowers being around and who's gonna take care of them, a lot of the population felt, the comments that I had seen, they said that we don't see too much of DPW down there as it is now, keeping the parks clean.
Well,
Are they gonna do it when all these other things
To be
change?
perfectly honest, last summer, there was somebody there every other day. They were very well mowed, they were very well cleaned. Last summer, they were very clean.
I understand. You've asked me why, I've told you, and then you sit here and you argue with me about
I'm
it.
not.
Just accept it, listen to what the comments were. Just go.
Vary. We agree to disagree, maybe.
Yeah.
Opinions vary. It's whether people are here or not. That's what we've heard. Vote on it.
What can you lose by rejecting it? I mean, to me, it seems it's crazy
I
to
think
say.
Phyllis already tried to make the point. There's a lot of people that really don't care for a lot of it that's being done.
I don't care for a lot that my government does, but it's gonna be helping our village look better. I mean, $20 means that much to you? Here's $20. It's ridiculous to argue over such a small amount, to get that much money for our village, to say, no, we want it to look crappy because we don't want to spend $20 per household. It blows my mind that you're arguing over this for months, it seems, over a year.
And this could be one
It's
of
such a
too many
small thing, and
things,
it'll make
hopefully.
it look better, it'll make our village look better. $60,000 is a minuscule amount. You act like it's hundreds of thousands. I don't understand.
Oh,
I
yes.
really, I'm confused.
You're arguing about something that you say may be done. Look at the future. We gotta build this community. You gotta maintain this property anyways. Why not do it right way?
Thank you. Okay.
State help. Speaking of the future, just imagine 5 years from now. We can look back and say, hey, we spent $60,000. We would have spent $60,000 on upkeep anyway. We could sit there 5 years from now and say, hey, we've spent our $60,000, we maintained our stuff, it looks pretty good. But geez, we blew a chance to have $300,000. What were we thinking? I mean, this is, as someone said, this is a no-brainer. Seems real simple to me. So let's get off the
And
pot
if something is, as I said, today I walked around, and there is one side that is, the sidewalk is perfect. I don't think we should start breaking perfect sidewalks to put another sidewalk there. I mean, if we can save money, I'm all for saving money. But this is about leading the community into the future. I think this is part of economic development. The grant was part of economic development, regional economic development, as a regional effort with Duncan. Not to mention that, really, and we have to take this very seriously, if we turn this down, and from the county they can help us with that, the whole central connection collapses. All the work for a year and a half collapses. Not only that, the village and the county, according to Mr. Horrigan, is going to be losing credibility about future grants. I don't want that. I'm planning to put 2 grants in, 2 applications for infrastructure, for wastewater treatment plant and for drinking water by August. This is a lot of money. It's not $57,000. It's gonna cost us much more. Where are we gonna find this money? That's my question.
It's my question too.
Yes.
I noticed in the budget that the share that the village is gonna incur, the $75,000 that you have in there right now, is gonna be financed instead of being charged against the budget. Why? Why are you financing it? Why aren't you incorporating it as a capital project to be paid out of the current year's budget?
Well, you could move to that area in the next year. We don't know how much this thing is gonna cost. So it's like
Well, you don't know.
75,000 against the budget, and now it comes in at 58. I don't know what that number is gonna be at the end of the day. So you run a ban until you find out what that number is, and then you can take the ban out at any
You do
time.
that with all your budget lines, you use an estimate for the cost.
Yeah, but some of those costs are pretty solid. This is not a solid number. I've been getting numbers all over the place,
It's not
so.
what we're hearing tonight.
He
Our
means-
share, so is the budget done? We passed the budget?
Yeah, tonight.
Tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, well,
You haven't gone?
yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
Well, let's go to the meeting, right? We have to go to the meeting straight, right?
I think if we're done talking about this.
Anybody else has anything more to say? Yeah. No? Yes.
One thing I'd like to compliment Phyllis, because you talked about the plants in the garden, this past summer and previous summers. The Rotary has planted the gardens.
I know, and we're the ones who took care of it.
Right. And-
Were we?
Right, so.
We're gonna call them again.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna get them, we
They'll be
okayed it.
there. It's been an annual event. They go through, they take some water. It'd be nice to be able to use water that hasn't been processed to water the plants, because that's what we usually do, is get the water out of the fountain, to put it in buckets and water, so.
And actually, one of the things that I like about these columns is because I want each one to have a spigot and the other one to have an electrical outlet. So we can use it to, instead of going with, bottles and all that stuff, we can water the plants from there. We can use it for the festivals and all that.
And that's better, but my point is that it'll be done either way. And so it's one of the hardest ones to do. I know she won't get credit for it, but she is. The other thing is, I asked a question last meeting about, each person's opinion on whether they would vote for this or not. Marky asked me to write you a letter. I did write you a letter.
dated April 1st. Dear Mark, you asked me to put my question concerning the matching grant from New York State for Barker's Commons in writing. As I understand, the grant, the state will supply 75% of the cost for the project, and the village will be responsible for 25% of the cost. At a certain point in the grant process, we can use in-kind services to offset the state's contributions. The work to be done will be determined by the village board and may go toward replacing, repairing sidewalks, refurbishing the market fountains, including leveling, installing recyclable water pumping stations, changing the lighting system to save energy, to be more efficient, and will save tax dollars in the future. And someone will come in and trim the canopy created by the trees and other beautification processes. I know there's a great deal more involved in the project, but this is a brief overview. My question at the special meeting was as follows. Do you approve or disapprove of the grant, and why or why not? I would appreciate a written response to my question, and you can send it to my address above. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter. I'm assuming that the letters in the mail will be written, but I think I understand where you're coming from. I think some people look at grants as tax dollars coming from some source or another source, and no matter where that grant source is going to come from, they're going to say no. But I think that the village and other municipalities in the area have stuck to the tax cap. And this is a payback from the governor for the work that the people have done. He promised if you stayed to the tax cap that he would reimburse in different manners. And I think this is an infrastructure issue. There's never money for infrastructure, and it's an opportunity for us to move forward. And I don't think we have a better opportunity than this.
You know, I'm thinking about something, Steve. And this lady was speaking about the water going down the drain. Probably about 3 years ago, I brought this up with you and the prior board about stopping the water going down the drain in the fountains. That's as far as it went. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. Nobody seemed to care about it. I don't think it was that much money at the time.
Right, now it is.
Could too without spending excessive amounts.
I just want to ask you if you feel comfortable voting about it tonight.
Yes.
Phyllis, Don, are you feeling comfortable voting about it tonight?
For me, I got the information I wanted, and also another thing that I wasn't aware of, that if further down the line when the contract comes, if we don't like it, or if the attorney finds something, we're not obligated, and that makes a big difference too. Okay, let's go to the meeting.
We call this meeting to order. A regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 24th day of April 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the Trustees Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law. Reports.
We have the fire department report for the month of March 2017. There were a total number of calls of 155 calls, of which 112 were rescue and EMS calls. There were 12 false alarms, 10 each of hazardous conditions, and 10 good intents. We also have the police department report for the month of March. There were a total number of incidents reported of 774. 42 arrests reported, 23 accidents, 193 parking tickets, and 30 vehicle and traffic. The final report for tonight is the justice report for the month of March. It shows 280 cases heard, of which total parking tickets, fines, and surcharges of $29,582. There were 170 vehicle and traffic, 61 criminal cases, 33 village ordinances, 7 civil cases, and 9 ABC laws. And that's it for reports.
Correspondence was received from Fredonia Italian Festival Committee requesting the use of Barker Common, the gazebo, and the closing of Church Street between Temple and Park Place between Main and Church Street for an Italian festival Saturday, August the 12th, 2017, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Be it resolved, the request from the Fredonia Italian Festival Committee to use Barker Common, the gazebo, and the closing of Church Street between Temple and Park Place between Main and Church Street, and to place garbage containers in Barker Common for an Italian festival on Saturday, August 12th, 2017, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. is hereby approved, with the stipulation that the group will be responsible for cleanup and is subject to the direction of the police department and the village receiving a certificate of insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the village as an additional insured. And be it resolved that the open container ordinance will be suspended from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. on said date in the contained area around the food vendors and food consumption tables for beer and wine served by the vendors, subject to compliance with all state liquor laws and regulations and all other applicable law.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to add Noreen Short to the active rolls.
Be it resolved that the name of Maureen Short, 3396 Route 83, Forestville, is hereby added to the active rolls of the J.S. Lambert Hook and Ladder Company effective immediately.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'd like to open it to the public. If you have any questions, requests, or opinions to voice at this point. Yes, Mr. Studd.
Have you approved the budget yet?
No.
Could you give us a brief summary of what your, like, total revenues and total expenditures for the general fund is for the year? And approximately how much did you cut out of the original, the mayor's budget?
Total revenue for the year is $9,207,000. Just on general, $5,762,478. $388,666 in local funds for capital, and estimated appropriations of $5,964,602. The loss in the fund being covered by fund balance is $590,790. That budget is cut by about $51,000 from the mayor's budget. You want the water and sewer, or
Yeah.
just?
You moved mine?
Nope, not at all. Estimated revenue, $1,623,000. $85,500 appropriated for capital costs out of local funds. $1.566 million other appropriations. The fund loss is $28,748. Again, being paid from the fund balance. Sewer fund, estimated revenue, $1,821,000. $43,000 in capital costs, local funds. $1.989 million paid from for appropriations, for a total of $2,032,000 in appropriations. and there's a loss of $210,876 in the fund, again, being paid by fund balance.
Could you tell us what your projected fund balance is then for the end of the budget year?
Estimated unreserved fund balance in the general, 485, 338, with a reserve fund balance of 500,000, so total fund balance 985, 338. The water fund, unreserved fund balance 320, 484, with a reserve of 100,000 for 420,000, 484 as the total reserved and unreserved. And the sewer fund, 437, 431 of, estimated unreserved 226, 555 with a reserve fund balance of 400, so there is a $626,000 fund balance at the end of the day.
I just have one last question. What are those reserve funds reserved for?
Therefore, unexplained or unincurred expenses that could pop up because we have a lot of different infrastructure. Therefore, stabilization of your rates as far as the rates. What we're using some of that fund balance for is to keep our tax rate steady, to try to keep as much as we can in the water and sewer funds so that we can maintain a steady rate in those funds. So that's what those are for.
So I have.
No, okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
I have kind of a small matter I'd like to ask about. As one travels up Central Avenue towards Dunkirk, when you get to the college, there's a light with a left arrow that goes into the college when the light turns green. I don't understand why, when you turn left, the other traffic cannot flow through the light. It's just a left arrow, and the people there have to stop. This hurts your gas mileage. This creates more pollution in the air, and there's no traffic coming from the other side for any reason for that not to be a green light and a left arrow. And I want to know why that can't be changed.
I don't know.
Well, to the best of my recollection, that was set up that way because there are two pieces of property, the privately owned pieces of property, in close proximity to that light, couldn't get out of their driveways if the light turned green right away. So that light was set up that way to allow those property owners to get out. I didn't design the light. I'm just sharing with you that's why that was set that way. That's why the timing on that light was set that way.
Couldn't they go when the light's green from coming from the college?
Only if no one turns left.
See, you get people coming up. I've been caught with that intersection. And I had a hell of a time. I was trying to turn left coming out of that private property. And it was really hard to get out on the street because there was never a green light for me. It was green coming out of the college, but they were turning headed right at me. Or it was green going both along Central, and I couldn't get into that.
No, you're correct.
You probably got the best possible solution to a bad situation. It is really tricky.
So why can't they turn when it's green from the
Well, the
college?
traffic just never.
You couldn't turn left.
It just never clears. The traffic never clears. Listen, that's not. You should be looking at them, not me. No.
You're the person explaining why it happens. I'm just.
Yeah, I'm totally, I hope you know my.
You're creating backlogs for many other people. And it's more convenient for those than, once every 4 hours.
I appreciate your frustration. I felt the same frustration. I will tell you that,
Can it be reconsidered?
I've never seen that light cycle and not every person who needed to get through it get through it. So there is a minor wait, but it's not a horrible wait. You are talking about, there's actually a group home there. It's not just some private people that live in there. There's some assisted living there. There's a couple of private residences there. So The board can certainly revisit it and talk to it, you know, with regard to it. That's not,
I have no problem revisiting it, yes, of course. Anybody else?
Yeah, can I say one thing? And I don't want to rehash anything that we talked about in the past, but I want to thank also the board members who really are trying to keep our costs down, because I really hope they show the same effort for everything moving forward that we can cut costs on. So thanks
You're right.
to those board members too.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay. Let's go. Yeah.
Okay. A resolution adopting a budget for the fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2017 and ending May 31st, 2018, making appropriations for the conduct of the village government and estimating the rates of compensation for officers and employees for such period. Whereas this board has met at the time and placed specific in the notice of the public hearing on the tentative budget and heard all persons desiring to be heard thereon. Now therefore be it resolved that a tentative budget as amended and revised and as attached hereto may a part thereof is hereby adopted, and that several amounts stated in the columns entitled quote-unquote adopted in schedules 1A, 2A, 1F, 2F, 1G, 2G, and 3T, together with the amount set forth in Schedule C, is required for the payment of principal and of interest on indebtedness by, and there are appropriated for objects and the purpose specified, and the salary and wages stated in Schedule 6 of such budget shall be and are hereby fixed at the amount shown therein effective June 1, 2017.
Upon roll call, the following votes were cast. To wait, Trustee Rockman.
Nay.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
No.
So the motion hereby is declared adopted by 3-2.
Here it resolved that the regular and overtime payroll of the various village departments and bill approved by the Finance Committee and set forth in abstract 488 is hereby approved.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
A resolution levying the total taxes and other charges extended and levied against each parcel of real property shown on a roll prepared and verified by the assessors for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Be it resolved that there be levied and assessed against the real property of the Village of Fredonia the following sums for village government and other charges for the fiscal year 2017-2018 at a tax rate of $35.19 per thousand assessed valuation. Total taxes for current budget, $2,851,591.25. Delinquent water rents and charges, $99,490.06. Delinquent sewer rents and charges, $124,613.59. Re-levied invoices, $1,321.88. Total real property taxes and other charges on the roll, $3,077,016.78. And be it further resolved that the receiver of taxes be and is hereby directed to levy, assess, and apportion upon the real and personal property liable to taxation in the Village of Fredonia a tax rate of $35.19 per $1,000 of valuation upon said assessment roll. And be it further resolved that the warrant to the tax receiver be executed and delivered to the tax receiver for the collection of unpaid taxes and assessment, water and sewer rentals outstanding and unpaid together with interest and penalties as provided by law. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute a warrant to the receiver of taxes, which warrant shall also be endorsed by the Board of Trustees as required by law. And be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to deliver said warrant to the receiver of taxes as required by law.
Upon roll call, the following votes were cast to wait. Trustee Rockman.
Nay.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
The motion was thereupon declared duly adopted by 4-1 vote.
Did you second that?
No, I did not.
No, I don't think there was a second on that after Christina
Oh.
was done.
You went right to it.
You went right
Doug,
to
you were
payroll,
supposed to
just
second.
so we can backtrack and make sure.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So go.
Okay, I'd like to second that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes?
Do we need to do another vote?
No.
No.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of Tom Battaglia, Director of the Fredonia Pomfret Parks and Recreation Department, James Hobbs, 233 East Main Street, Fredonia, is hereby appointed as part-time seasonal Russell Joy Park attendant at $10 per hour, effective immediately, with no other benefits to be given for the 2017 summer program.
Second?
Trustee Rockman?
Aye.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Be it resolved that this Board of Trustees approves the mayor's reappointment of Nancy Beetson of 155 Central Avenue, Fredonia, New York, as acting village justice until the end of this village official year, as her current at her current salary, with no other benefits. Ms. Dietzen has passed the required training course.
I second.
Trustee Rockman?
Aye.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes. Be it resolved that the village retain the services of Horton Law, PLLC of Orchard Park, New York, to assist the village in conducting labor and employment matters on an as-needed basis at an hourly rate of $235 per hour, plus extraordinary out-of-pocket expenses and disbursements as incurred. And be it further resolved that either party may cancel the agreement by notice of writing at any time. And be it further resolved that the agreement between Horton Law, PLLC, and the Village of Fredonia is hereby approved, and the village administrator is hereby authorized to sign said agreement on behalf of the Village of Fredonia.
Second?
Trustee Rockman?
Aye.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Whereas the Village of Fredonia, City of Dunkirk, and Fredonia State University of New York have been working collectively on a regional effort known as Central Connections, funded through a technical assistance grant from the Empire State Development to create a strong connection and leverage community and economic development among the village, city, and university. And whereas through the Central Connections planning process, it was determined that in order to begin strengthening the connections among the village, city, and university, each municipality would first undertake a project to create a strong central node in each community to build on. And whereas Barker Commons is a valuable cultural and historical asset centered in downtown and is a primary event space, gathering place, and point of pride in our community. And whereas it was determined that improvements to the historic Barker Commons to update infrastructure, repair the historic Mark fountains, improve the overall park aesthetic, and provide water and electric for events would be a project that meets the goals of the Western New York Regional Economic Development Council Plan for Prosperity. And whereas the Barker Common Improvement Project was determined to be a regional priority by the Western New York Regional Economic Development Council and was awarded funding through the 2016 New York State Consolidated Funding Application. And whereas this project is the first step in spurring additional regional collaboration, enhancing walkability in the downtown business district, improving the aesthetic of downtown, and therefore be it resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to accept funds from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation in accordance with the provisions of Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 or the Recreational Trails Program in an amount not to exceed $310,543 and enter into and execute a project agreement with the state for such financial assistance to the Village of Fredonia for Barker Commons improvements, and if appropriate, a conservation easement preservation covenant to the deed of the assisted property. And be it further resolved that the mayor seek the additional input of residents as to the final design of the project and maintain a committee of residents that will assist in organizing citizen volunteers to conduct a portion of the work.
I second.
Trustee Rockman?
Nay.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
No.
Okay. So it passed. And let's go to the
Good for you.
executive. Go to the executive.
I hereby make a motion to enter into executive session as authorized by Section 105(1)(f) of the Public Officers Law to discuss matters leading to the appointment of a particular person pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law.
Phyllis?
Second.
Trustee Hartman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones. Trustee Essex. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. We call this meeting to order. A regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 24th day of April 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the Trustees' Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law. Reports.
We have the fire department report for the month of March 2017. There were a total number of calls of 155 calls, of which 112 were rescue and EMS calls. There were 12 false alarms, 10 each of hazardous conditions, and 10 good intents. We also have the police department report for the month of March. There were a total number of incidents reported of 774. 42 arrests reported, 23 accidents, 193 parking tickets, and 30 vehicle and traffic. The final report for tonight is the justice report for the month of March. It shows 280 cases heard, of which total parking tickets, fines, and surcharges of $29,582. There were 170 vehicle and traffic, 61 criminal cases, 33 village ordinances, 7 civil cases, and 9 ABC laws. And that's it for reports.
Correspondence was received from Fredonia Italian Festival Committee requesting the use of Barker Common, the gazebo, and the closing of Church Street between Temple and Park Place between Main and Church Street for an Italian festival Saturday, August the 12th, 2017, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Be it resolved, the request from the Fredonia Italian Festival Committee to use Barker Common, the gazebo, and the closing of Church Street between Temple and Park Place between Main and Church Street, and to place garbage containers in Barker Common for an Italian festival on Saturday, August 12th, 2017, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. is hereby approved, with the stipulation that the group will be responsible for cleanup and is subject to the direction of the police department and the village receiving a certificate of insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the village as an additional insured. And be it resolved that the open container ordinance will be suspended from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. on said date in the contained area around the food vendors and food consumption tables for beer and wine served by the vendors, subject to compliance with all state liquor laws and regulations and all other applicable law.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essex.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to add Noreen Short to the active roles.
Be it resolved that the name of Maureen Short, 3396 Route 83, Forestville, is hereby added to the active roles of the J.S. Lambert Hook and Ladder Company effective immediately.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essex.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'd like to open it to the public. If you have any questions, requests, or opinions to voice at this point. Yes, Mr. Sedot.
Have you approved the budget yet?
No.
Could you give us a brief summary of what your, total revenues and total expenditures for the general fund is for the year? And approximately how much did you cut out of the mayor's budget?
Total revenue for the year is $9,207,000. Just on general, $5,762,478. $388,666 in local funds for capital, and estimated appropriations of $5,964,602. The loss in the fund being covered by fund balance is $590,790. That budget is cut by about $51,000 from the mayor's budget. You want the water and sewer, or
Yeah.
just?
You moved mine?
Nope, not at all. Estimated revenue, $1,623,000. $85,500 appropriated for capital costs out of local funds. $1.566 million other appropriations. The fund loss is $28,748. Again, being paid from the fund balance. Sewer fund, estimated revenue, $1,821,000. $43,000 in capital costs, local funds. $1.989 million paid from for appropriations, for a total of $2,032,000 in appropriations. And there's a loss of $210,876 in the fund, again being paid by fund balance.
Could you tell us what your projected fund balance is then for the end of the budget year?
Estimated unreserved fund balance in the general, $485,338, with a reserve fund balance of $500,000, so total fund balance $985,338. The water fund, unreserved fund balance $320,484, with a reserve of $100,000, or $420,484 as the total reserved and unreserved. And the sewer fund, $437,431 estimated unreserved $226,555, with a reserve fund balance of $400, so there is a $626,000 fund balance at the end of the day.
I just have one last question. What are those reserve funds reserved for?
Therefore, unexplained or unincurred expenses that could pop up, because we have a lot of different infrastructure. Therefore, stabilization of your rates, as far as the rates, what we're using some of that fund balance for is to keep our tax rate steady, to try to keep as much as we can in the water and sewer funds so that we can maintain a steady rate in those funds. So that's what those are for.
So I have.
No, okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
I have kind of a small matter I'd like to ask about. As one travels up Central Avenue towards Dunkirk, when you get to the college, there's a light with a left arrow that goes into the college when the light turns green. I don't understand why, when you turn left, the other traffic cannot flow through the light. It's just a left arrow, and the people there have to stop. This hurts your gas mileage, this creates more pollution in the air, and there's no traffic coming from the other side for any reason for that not to be a green light and a left arrow. And I want to know why that can't be changed.
I don't know.
Well, to the best of my recollection, that was set up that way because there are two pieces of property, the privately owned pieces of property, in close proximity to that light, couldn't get out of their driveways if the light turned green right away. So that light was set up that way to allow those property owners to get out. I didn't design the light. I'm just sharing with you that's why that was set that way. That's why the timing on that light was set that way.
Couldn't they go when the light's green from coming from the college?
Only if no one turns
No,
left.
see, you get people coming up. I've been caught with that intersection, and I had a hell of a time. I was trying to turn left coming out of that private property. And it was really hard to get out on the street because there was never a green light for me. It was green coming out of the college, but they were turning headed right at me, or it was green going both along Central, and I couldn't get into that.
No, you're correct.
You probably got the best possible solution to a bad situation. It is really tricky.
So why can't they
finding that.
turn when it's green?
Well, the traffic just
You
never.
couldn't turn left.
It just never clears. The traffic never clears. Listen, that's not, you should be looking at them, not me. No.
No, you're the person explaining why it happens. I'm just.
Yeah, I'm totally, I hope you know
You're creating backlogs for many other people. And it's more convenient for those than, once every 4 hours.
I appreciate your frustration. I felt the same frustration. I will tell you that,
Can it be reconsidered?
I've never seen that light cycle and not every person who needed to get through it. So there is a minor wait, but it's not a horrible wait. You are talking about, there's actually a group home there. It's not just some private people that live in there. There's some assisted living there. There's a couple of private residences there. So the board can certainly revisit it and talk to it, with regard to it. That's not.
I have no problem revisiting it, yes, of course. Anybody else?
Yeah, can I say one thing? And I don't want to rehash anything that we talked about in the past, but I want to thank also the board members who really are trying to keep our costs down, because I really hope they show the same effort for everything moving forward that we can cut costs on. So thanks
You're right.
to those board members too.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay. Let's go. Yeah.
Okay, a resolution adopting a budget for the fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2017 and ending May 31st, 2018, making appropriations for the conduct of the village government and estimating the rates of compensation for officers and employees for such period. Whereas this board has met at the time and placed specific in the notice of the public hearing on the tentative budget and heard all persons desiring to be heard thereon. Now therefore be it resolved that a tentative budget as amended and revised and as attached hereto may a part thereof is hereby adopted, and that several amounts stated in the columns entitled quote-unquote adopted in schedules 1A, 2A, 1F, 2F, 1G, 2G, and 3T, together with the amount set forth in Schedule C, is required for the payment of principal and of interest on indebtedness by, and there are appropriated for objects and the purpose specified, and the salary and wages stated in Schedule 6 of such budget shall be and are hereby fixed at the amount shown therein effective June 1, 2017.
Upon roll call, the following votes were cast. To wait, Trustee Rockman.
Nay.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
No.
So the motion hereby is declared adopted by 3-2.
Be it resolved that the regular and overtime payroll of the various village departments and bill approved by the Finance Committee and set forth in abstract 488 is hereby approved.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
A resolution levying the total taxes and other charges extended and levied against each parcel of real property shown on a roll prepared and verified by the assessors for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Be it resolved that there be levied and assessed against the real property of the Village of Fredonia the following sums for village government and other charges for the fiscal year 2017-2018 at a tax rate of $35.19 per thousand assessed valuation. Total taxes for current budget, $2,851,591.25. Delinquent water rents and charges, $99,490.06. Delinquent sewer rents and charges, $124,613.59. Re-levied invoices, $1,321.88. Total real property taxes and other charges on the roll, $3,077,016.78. And be it further resolved that the receiver of taxes be and is hereby directed to levy, assess, and apportion upon the real and personal property liable to taxation in the Village of Fredonia a tax rate of $35.19 per $1,000 of valuation upon said assessment roll. And be it further resolved that the warrant to the tax receiver be executed and delivered to the tax receiver for the collection of unpaid taxes and assessment, water and sewer rentals outstanding and unpaid together with interest and penalties as provided by law. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute a warrant to the receiver of taxes, which warrant shall also be endorsed by the Board of Trustees as required by law. And be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to deliver said warrant to the receiver of taxes as required by law.
Upon roll call, the following votes were cast to it. Trustee Rockman.
Nay.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
The motion was thereupon declared duly adopted by 4 to 1 vote.
Did you second that?
No, I did not.
No, I don't think there was a second on that after Christina
Oh.
was done.
You
You went right
Doug,
to
you were
payroll,
supposed to
just
second.
so we can backtrack and make sure.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So go.
Okay, I'd like to second that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes.
Do we need to do another vote?
No.
No.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of Tom Battaglia, Director of the Fredonia Pomfret Parks and Recreation Department, James Hobbs, 233 East Main Street, Fredonia, is hereby appointed as part-time seasonal Russell Joy Park attendant at $10 per hour, effective immediately, with no other benefits to be given for the 2017 summer program.
Second?
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Be it resolved that this Board of Trustees approves the mayor's reappointment of Nancy Dietzen of 155 Central Avenue, Fredonia, New York, as acting village justice until the end of this village official year as her current at her current salary with no other benefits. Ms. Dietzen has passed the required training course.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes. Be it resolved that the village retain the services of Horton Law, PLLC of Orchard Park, New York, to assist the village in conducting labor and employment matters on an as-needed basis at an hourly rate of $235 per hour plus extraordinary out-of-pocket expenses and disbursements as incurred. And be it further resolved that either party may cancel the agreement by notice of writing at any time. And be it further resolved that the agreement between Horton Law, PLLC, and the Village of Fredonia is hereby approved, and the village administrator is hereby authorized to sign said agreement on behalf of the Village of Fredonia.
Second?
Trustee Rockman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas the Village of Fredonia, City of Dunkirk, and Fredonia State University of New York have been working collectively on a regional effort known as Central Connections, funded through a technical assistance grant from the Empire State Development to create a strong connection and leverage community and economic development among the village, city, and university. And whereas through the Central Connections planning process, it was determined that in order to begin strengthening the connections among the village, city, and university, each municipality would first undertake a project to create a strong central node in each community to build on. And whereas Barker Commons is a valuable cultural and historical asset centered in downtown and is a primary event space, gathering place, and point of pride in our community. And whereas it was determined that improvements to the historic Barker Commons to update infrastructure, repair the historic Mark fountains, improve the overall park aesthetic, and provide water and electric for events would be a project that meets the goals of the Western New York Regional Economic Development Council Plan for Prosperity. And whereas the Barker Common Improvement Project was determined to be a regional priority by the Western New York Regional Economic Development Council and was awarded funding through the 2016 New York State Consolidated Funding Application. And whereas this project is the first step in spurring additional regional collaboration enhancing walkability in the downtown business district, improving the aesthetic of downtown, and therefore be it resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to accept funds from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation in accordance with the provisions of Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 or the Recreational Trails Program in an amount not to exceed $310,543 and enter into and execute a project agreement with the state for such financial assistance to the Village of Fredonia for Barker Commons improvements, and if appropriate, a conservation easement preservation covenant to the deed of the assisted property. And be it further resolved that the mayor seek the additional input of residents as to the final design of the project and maintain a committee of residents that will assist in organizing citizen volunteers to conduct a portion of the work.
I second.
Trustee Rockman.
Nay.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
No.
Okay. So it passed. And let's go to the executive. Go to executive.
I hereby make a motion to enter into executive sessions authorized by Section 105(1)(f) of the Public Officers Law to discuss matters leading to the appointment of a particular person pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law.
Phyllis?
Second. Trustee Hartman.
Aye.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones. Trustee Essek. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming.